have this great top I'm going to copy and make dozens of them. I'll show you what I'm going to do coming up. Hi, Chanel here for another edition for your Sew Chanel playlist. Bringing you tips, tools, and techniques for your fashion evolutions. So if you're new here, join me and I'll bring you weekly doses of fashion inspiration. So I had a friend that gave me this little top a long time ago. And I love it. It's just one of those tops you could just throw on. I look thinner in it. It might be because of the print. I'm not sure. But it's just a really simple, so simple top that I thought after years of owning it, I should copy it and make it out of some other fabrics. But the trick is you got to get the right fabric for it to actually work like it does. So this is actually a little bit of a jersey fabric. It's hot in the summer though, so I actually don't wear it in the summer. The spring I do, just because of the fabric. But it's simply a scoop neck, and it's like two shapes like this, and just simply sewn right here. The neckline's finished. This is actually overlocked, and then the bottom of it is just a really chintzy little overlock. You can make this top in like 5 minutes. It's crazy. So I found this fabric that I had bought to copy another top a couple years ago. It's a rayon, and you can hear it like this. And I'm gonna just make it out of that, and I'm gonna put, I had some black bias tape binding. I'm gonna just bind the edges on that, and so I have a little bit of black contrast in there on the sleeve. And I wonder, see in the bottom and the inside too, it's the same print, so the dye went all the way through. So because right here you want it to look good when it's right there. So I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna make this, and I'm gonna, first off, I gotta just do a real quick pattern for it, and that should be simple too. All right, let's make this. Okay, first off, I just folded this in half. Just have this round part. Got it pretty just kind of folded in half as best I could. I have this, it's kind of like a Pelani pattern paper. And it actually came on the fold right here, but you can actually just cut one on the fold. And then you make I just traced it. I got my pencil and traced it around here, and then I added, you can see it right here, added a 1/2 inch seam allowance, because this binding actually here is a 3/8 inch seam allowance right there, but I'm going to just do a half. It's easier to mark, and I can always use a little extra width to it. And it's just simply this shape right here, and then I'm going to cut this out here on the fold. And I marked also right here where the stitch in that top was. But this paper actually slides, the shears. It's really fun. There we go. And that's my pattern. That's so simple. And I just got to cut 2 of these right here. Just 2 of these, but I'll probably line this up and cut it on the fold anyway. So I'm going to cut that out and put the binding on and wear it tonight. Okay, so I got my fabric all laid out. I took it was a pretty wide piece, probably about almost 60, and I cut it down the length half, and then about how much fabric I needed, and got 2 smaller pieces on the fold, and then lined up my cross grain on my cutting board here, and then my length grain here, so that this top is going to be nice and straight. And then this is just right on the fold right here, and I just pin this all down. Take these anchor pins out, Pin this all down, and then it's a little shy right at the end, but I don't want to cut a whole nother piece of fabric there. It's just a little bit right here where I'm going to put my seam binding. So I'll just adjust that, and remember this top just kind of fluttered at the sleeves, and it'll be fine. And then this fabric shreds like crazy, so I'm going to use my pinking shears to cut this out so that when I'm going to sew all that seam binding down, it doesn't get so annoying with all the fraying going on everywhere. Sometimes it's harder to cut with pinking shears. They're actually just harder to cut, but so worth it in the end. And so I'm going to finish up cutting this out, then I'll get onto my neckline and my shoulder line, then my neckline. Okay, I'm on to sewing my shoulder seams. I have the two pieces. I got my neckline here, my shoulder seams. I have this right sides together. This print is really hard to tell what is right sides together. And I'll pin these shoulder seams together here. And I'm actually going to sew in this seam binding tape. I actually have a really old version here that's much softer than the newer kinds they have out. You find these in packages. It says seam binding, and it helps basically to stabilize a seam, because shoulder seams, if I sew this, you can see how much it moves, and then that just makes for a poor fit. But right here you put the seam binding tape here, and you include it in the seam right here. If I'm going to sew it a 1/2 inch down right here, right in the middle of that tape, that will keep that shoulder seam from moving around. It's a lot more sturdier. If you look inside a lot of your clothes, you'll see a twill tape, like in the shoulder seam, you'll see a twill tape and sometimes a clear type of band in there, and that is designed to keep the shoulder seam more stable. So I'm going to sew my shoulder seams, and then I'll get onto my neckline. Okay, got my shoulder seams done right in here. Got my little seam tape poking out there. You can see it's kind of anchored into the seam right here. Keeps this nice and stable so it doesn't stretch out. This is a nice stable shoulder seam. And I think what I'm going to do also, because I have this zigzagged here, is top stitch on either side of this seam here to keep that seam allowance anchored down. And then I'm not going to overlock this right now because I'm too lazy to change my thread, and I think it's got orange on it or something. And it'll, if it frays a little bit, it'll stop at the top stitch. So basically this whole pattern now looks like a big oval with it's just a shape, like a big circle shape on there. So it's pretty simple. And now all I have to do is bind all that whole round edge with my bias tape right here. And what I'm going to do is open out, this is a single fold, like a wide bias tape, and it has the 2 folds here. So I'll stitch this to the garment here, all in that oval area, in that crease, and then roll it to the right side and then top stitch it on here. But because this is kind of like, it's about 3/4 inches wide, I don't think I want to top stitch that far out. I'm going to actually press this part in a little bit more like that so that I have a smaller width of that. And then my neckline, I took the same bias tape. This is the same one. It had the little creases right here, and I pressed it all out. Then I repressed it so that it's, you know, 1/2 and 1/2. And then I'll sew this on the neckline just about, probably just a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then turn it inside so it has like a nice finish on there. That's how I'm going to finish all these edges. And then you just stitch the 2 sides down and it's done. Oh, okay, I'm going to get onto that. Wow, that was a lot more seam binding tape than I thought I was going to use. This is longer. I actually ran out. Actually, I was this close to I ran out basically. I don't know how much I had 2 cards of it, and I know one card has 3 yards, but I don't know how much. I know one was pretty full, so this could take like 3-4 yards of seam binding. So if you ever make one of these, buy 2 packages of that. And yeah, that was a close call. So I got it, the wide part stitched on here, and this is the inside. So I'm gonna press this flat, then press it in like this, and then top stitch it. And I think I'm gonna keep it wide like that, because it's so wide to repress all that. That's a lot of pressing. I'm just gonna do like a 3/4 inch top stitch here, and it seems the wide is fine. And then here's how the neckline looks. Get that right there. So I have the folded over edge here. I'm gonna press it to the inside, so you can see it like here. Press it to the inside like that, and then top stitch around there, and then it'll be done. Also, I have my shoulder seams top stitch. Those turned out really nice too, right here. So that's the shoulder seam. And then it's got to do a lot of pressing, turn it all inside, top stitch it all over, and then almost done. Well, I got all of that done. All the binding stitched in. You can't even really tell because of the whole print. This looks so great. Got the neckline done right here. This is how the side seams will look. Just a black binding in here. The top stitch, you can see the stitch right there. It's 3/4 way in, and you can't really see because the print is so busy, but if it was on a solid you would totally see it. So now what I have to do is stitch the side seams, just 2 stitches down. But what I realized was this fabric doesn't really have any stretch to it. It has a little bit of give, so it's not, this actually has a lot of stitch, so I don't know exactly how I'm gonna get it on, if I'm gonna have to struggle to get it on. I'll have to figure out a way. I might have to like do buttons or something, or maybe like an invisible hide zipper. I just have to try it on. But this right here is stitched right here, and it has stretch to it, so oops. Anyway, that's why you do a sample one. Also, if you are not familiar with seam bindings and you want to learn about seam bindings, I have a YouTube channel, which that's what you're on right now. There's a section of it's called Sew Bits, and there's a sew bit. This is number 20 on what pattern size to buy, but on number like 19, I think it was number 19, it was all about bias tapes. So I teach you how to make your own bias tape on there, and then a little bit about sewing it on. So when I talk about what bias tape is, so if you want to make this, this is a lot of bias tape in here. If you're not familiar with it, that'll help you. Also, the key to getting this all to lay right is pressing. So there was one section I came across that I didn't press this whole thing, and it was harder to sew. So you got to press it flat, and then it's easier to sew, and then also you just get everything nice and shaped right. All right, I'm going to try this on, stitch the side seams, and hopefully it works out. Ta-da! Got it done! Ta-da! I just stitched the side seam, and I stitched it right here, and it was easy to get on, and I guess this fabric has enough movement to it. I actually have it on over 2 other tops, but it fits perfectly. Oh my gosh, I wish I would have been wanting to copy this for some time, and I'm just now getting around to all this stuff, and wish I would have done this a long time ago, because this is a great summer top when it's hot out and you don't want your arms exposed so much, which I still do, because you know, it's hot out there. Anyway, but this looks great, so I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna see if I can get a lightweight knit to do this with, and the prints are easier because of all the top stitching. There's a lot of top stitching, so you gotta make sure you sew straight so you can get it. But this looks great, really comfortable. I'm very excited. All right, so I hope you make one, because I know I'm gonna make dozens of them. I'll see you in the next video.